Tonight, an inquest continues in Winnipeg into the death of a 16-year-old First Nations girl shot by Winnipeg police. In an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the NWT is doing more to bring renewable energy sources to the territory.
Everybody's connected to everybody, and everybody helps everybody.
And a gathering in Iqaluit to connect economic development officers from around the territory. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The inquest into the death of a 16-year-old First Nations girl shot by a Winnipeg police officer resumed today. In 2020, Aisha Hudson was killed after an alleged liquor store robbery turned into a pursuit. Today was the second day of an inquest expected to last through February. With more, here's Julia Ross.
2 police sergeants testified on Tuesday in the Aisha Hudson inquest. They were both on the scene when the 16-year-old was shot on April 8, 2020. Sergeants Dustin Drager and Jeff Vincent were both constables at the time. On the stand, both said they were in pursuit of the vehicle that Aisha had been driving. An agreed statement of facts read aloud said that on April 8, 2020 at 5:21 p.m., Winnipeg Police Services received a call that a liquor mart had been robbed by a group of Indigenous youth aged 15 to 18, and a threat to stab a security guard was included. No one was physically assaulted and weapons were not seen during the robbery. On the stand, Drager and Vincent were questioned on why they continued the pursuit and what they were basing their assessments of safety on. Both testified that they assessed the need to apprehend versus the risk to public multiple times. Drager says he believes there is no training specific to police officers interacting with Indigenous youth. Both testified that risk to public was low, and that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, traffic was minimal and there were no pedestrians in sight during pursuit. The inquest aims to examine Hudson's life, social context, use of force, and consideration of her Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth or MACY report, and how they relate to her death and preventing similar tragedies in the future. Aisha was a member of the Barons River First Nation in northeast Manitoba. Her inquest continues throughout the month. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
In October 2025, Environment and Climate Change Canada laid 52 charges against the battery recycling company Terrapure. The charges were over Terrapure violating the Fisheries Act. Meanwhile, 38 charges have also been laid against the Quebec city of St. Catherine for violating the same law. Alleged illegal dumping of sulfate and lead into the St. Lawrence Seaway occurred between November 2020 and December 2023. CTV News reported that the city of St. Catherine discovered the contamination of water, but allegedly allowed Terrapure to continue polluting. The St. Lawrence Seaway runs alongside Ganawage. Terrapure's facility is located right outside of Ganawage's borders. The Mohawk Council of Ganawage says there has been a lack of consideration of the placement of facilities like Terrapure when it comes to the well-being of Ganawage's community members.
What bothers me in a lot of ways is that those industries are positioned right along our boundary. They abut our boundary. And to me, that brings up the specter of what I would refer to as environmental racism.
The Mohawk Council of Ganawage announced on Tuesday that members of its council recently met with the mayor of St. Catherine. APTN News will be following any developments on this story. First Nation in north central Yukon is weighing in on the relicensing of a dam located on its traditional territory. The Mayo Hydro facility is located on the First Nation of Nacho-Nyaktun's traditional territory. Crown Corporation Yukon Energy is seeking a 5-year license for the facility from the territory's water regulator, the Yukon Water Board. The board is holding a public hearing on the matter this week in Whitehorse. Nacho-Nyaktun's deputy chief said Monday the dam has caused adverse impacts on their Aboriginal land and treaty rights, like their ability to harvest salmon. First Nation is calling on Yukon Energy and the territorial governments to address their concerns.
We understand at the time it was built the fundamental importance the dam played in the Yukon, and we understand the impartial part of the Mayo generating station continues to play in the Yukon energy grid, whether in the Yukon or Yukon, BC. But it must not continue to occur at the cost of our lands, our water, our fish, animals, and culture well-being.
A major chapter in the Northwest Territories' economic history is coming to a close, as Imperial Oil says they will permanently end production at their Norman Wells facility in just 6 months' time. After more than 100 years, the regional hub of Chatu, built up by the oil industry, will embark on a significant economic shift with considerable impact to the community. In a statement made on January 30th, the company cites the aging facility and declining production. The facility includes wells on islands in the Mackenzie River and a central processing plant that also generates power for the town. Imperial Oil is responsible for reclamation. However, the company says final cleanup at the site won't start until 2030, pending regulatory approvals and environmental assessments. Annual property taxes from production amount to roughly $6 million, funding more than half of the municipal budget. It's the largest employer in the 750-person community, with roughly 80 employees in 2024. John Lewison is one of them, working in the sector since 1996.
It's a surprise, but not really a surprise. There's the whole town is connected one way or another to Imperial through small businesses, and a lot of locals work there, so it'll affect the whole town for sure. No doubt there'll be families moving affected and by this closure. So, but it'll be a few years, hopefully, not right away. It'll take a while before the actual lights go out, if you will, I guess.
Meanwhile, the Northwest Territories is turning up the heat on renewable energy sources in an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and lower utility bills. As APTN Charlotte Moore Jacobs explains, sustainability starts in the classroom.
These are the heavyweights of renewable heat, and here are the Northerners looking to operate them.
Or is it you have to get in there really?
They're part of a training course intended for operators and facility managers with experience in commercial systems, who are looking to extend their knowledge on how to safely and efficiently run heating plants powered by biomass boilers. Like Sheldon Farsi from Digagotene, Fort Providence.
There's quite a bit of maintenance that goes into these systems and what really has to be looked at. And especially in these remote communities that really need it. We've been getting a lot of people from the south, and it'd be good to get local technicians trained.
The training is part of a 3-day Arctic Bioenergy Summit in Yellowknife, hosted by Arctic Energy Alliance and Wood Pellet Association of Canada.
Further north, there's less familiarity with wood as a fuel source and wood as a heat source.
Industry leaders say to grow the sector, focus needs to shift on upfront capital costs of systems to long-term community benefits. Going as far as calling the NWT the Saudi Arabia of forests, with enough fuel to responsibly run chip boilers to heat every home and business. Executive Director of the Arctic Energy Alliance, Mark Hike, says the North has been working with biomass for space heating and wood pellets for the last 2 decades, and there's extraordinary potential for climate mitigation.
We're facing increasing threats from wildfires, and we're trying to build up community resilience. Fire smarting around our communities is a really important piece of that, but it's also something that will harvest a fuel that we can use to actually produce energy with.
Why is it important to have a regular schedule for cleaning your boiler tubes?
Trainer David Dubois says for bioenergy to be viable, building capacity is essential.
they're used to operating an oil boiler or they're used to operating a wood stove. There's a layer of automation that these have in order to make them operate efficiently and effectively. Oftentimes, the use of these automated systems can be a little bit challenging to people that aren't comfortable using a control panel and everything like that. So we do a lot of work to ensure that it's very user-friendly, no different than using a smartphone.
Back in the classroom, Lyndon Antoine of Hay River can't help but thinking of communities heating with imported and pricey diesel and heating oil. He sees biomass as a homegrown answer to high energy costs and investment in local economy.
To save money for sure, I mean, and they use that money elsewhere, right, as possible. So, I mean, for funding, and they can make use of it for the youth or the seniors, or, you know.
Arctic Energy Alliance says based on demand, they hope to offer routine training starting later this year. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you'd like to share, you can send us an email to news@aptn.ca. You can read and watch our stories by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. First Nations without land or a modern treaty were in Ottawa to speak before politicians. Details on that and much more still to come. Welcome back. The Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs heard from First Nations without land or modern treaty on Tuesday. They're often recognized by the federal government but have no reserve land. Fraser Needham has more from some of the witnesses who testified.
Lisa Robinson is well known for trying to ask Prime Minister Mark Carney a question during the Assembly First Nations meeting last December. It was about red tape getting in the way of creating a land base for the Wolf Lake First Nation. She's also the chief of Wolf Lake, which has claims to traditional land in both Ontario and Quebec. Chief Robinson told the committee her First Nation has been waiting centuries for land.
This is not a new issue. Algonquin chiefs have petitioned the Crown for land for more than 200 years. Canada has been on notice for 2 centuries. What has changed is not the legitimacy of our request, but how long Canada expects us to wait. This situation is not a result of legal uncertainty. It is the result of administrative choice.
Anishinaabe Nation Grand Council Chief Linda DeBossage added Indigenous Services Canada has not been cooperative when it comes to sharing information on landless First Nations.
Historical and ongoing research points to fewer than 30 landless First Nations, but only Indigenous Services Canada holds comprehensive data. That lack of clarity reinforces the challenges and invisibility these nations experience.
Robinson also explained some of the hard consequences of not having reserve land.
Without a reserve, our members are excluded from infrastructure, housing, and essential services. Services without land is not a remedy. They leave communities like ours in perpetual insecurity. And the cost of that failure is paid every day by our people.
Liberal MP Jaime Batiste asked Robinson if her First Nation has set out specific boundaries they would like to see become reserve land. She told the committee they were in the process of passing a band council resolution to do this, but it has not yet happened. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Back to the north now, where community economic development officers from all over Nunavut are meeting in Iqaluit this week to make connections with each other and other community partners. APTN's Justin Hardy reports.
Everybody's connected to everybody, and everybody helps everybody.
The 2026 Nunavut Economic Development Association Conference features panels and discussions with government services and other community partners. But the biggest draw for attendees is the chance to meet with colleagues from across the territory. Cambridge Bay Economic Development Officer Angela Gerbrandt says the connections made through organizations like NIDA are crucial for success.
We know that there is this network of people, and I've had several calls this year from new people. The lady in Rankin Inlet is new, the lady in Kugluktuk is new. Both of them called me and said, I'm new here, I hear you're good, let us ask you questions. And so that's really how we function on a personal basis, and it works very well.
Iqaluit Economic Development Officer Dominic Gagne says he often uses that network in his role in the territory's capital city.
I'm quite recent in the role. I don't quite have a year under my belt yet, but being able to talk with people like Angela, like Roger, like Chris, that have been in the position for a little bit more time, and that I'm able to get projects with them that I can maybe mold into something that works in Iqaluit, or share ideas and see what didn't work with them, but that I can make work in our community.
Gerbrandt and Gagne were pleasantly surprised when they were recognized for finishing the organization's training program.
Yeah, total shock. I love the organization, the Nunavut Economic Development Association, because we work together, as lots of Nunavummiut do. That's what's so precious about Nunavut.
Gagne says the training program has been invaluable to his role.
It highlights everything from the Nunavut life to how to do a business plan to financial aspects and everything. So it's just 13 courses that you do that you can complete either asynchronous or with the teachers through Envision. And then once you completed 13 like Angela and I did, we got awarded this as a surprise today.
The conference continues throughout the week. Justin Hardy, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
Now to British Columbia, where a recent court judgment to keep fish farms from getting licenses on the Discovery Islands is being welcomed by those that say they are dangerous for wild salmon. APTN's Tina House has the latest.
I'm here to check on the juvenile fish that are migrating to sea this year. For 20 years we've seen massive sea lice outbreaks in this area because of the salmon farms.
Marine biologist Alexandra Morton has dedicated her life to saving wild salmon. She has worked extensively alongside many Indigenous communities in BC to help save the wild salmon population from what she says is a direct link from salmon farms. In 2023, then Federal Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, Joyce Murray, did not renew aquaculture licenses to Maui, a Norwegian fish farm company. They appealed, and on January the 29th, 2026, the Federal Court of Appeal dismissed the appeal from Maui from operating near the Discovery Islands, located just off the coast of southern Vancouver Island.
It's fantastic that the court said that the minister can use science that's outside of DFO. And all of us are watching these wild salmon rebound wherever the farms have been removed. And so this just means that the trend of increasing salmon in British Columbia has a chance to continue in the Fraser. And we're hoping that, we'll get to see salmon farms removed from other parts of the coast.
Morton says that in 2020, she went to the Discovery Islands to look at the health of juvenile wild salmon, and the samples she collected showed extensive sea lice.
The danger is pathogens. The farms are breaking all the natural laws, and so sea lice and viruses and bacteria are breeding in these farms. And there's been a lot of suppression around this science that's showing impact, but there's a lot of brave scientists at Canadian universities and within DFO, Pacific Salmon Foundation, that are showing that the impact of these farms is significant.
Chief Bob Chamberlain is the chair of the Wild Salmon Alliance. He is very happy with the court's decision, but urges the federal government to do even more.
There has been a long-standing call for an independent science panel to do this kind of work. And it's time that we do that, and that we see the Prime Minister make a comment and come forward and explain to Canadians that he's going to do the right thing for wild salmon in British Columbia.
We reached out to Maui for comment, but did not hear back by the time this story went to air. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
A new episode of Face to Face is just minutes away. We'll bring you a preview after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And Michelle shares with us the challenges of winter farming in North Temiskaming in Ontario. Pictured here is newborn calf named Fancy. Stay warm out there, Fancy. If you have an awesome photo to share, send it to us now at share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, flurries and -3 for Fredericton, 0 for Halifax. -19 in Kuujjuaq, 6 below for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. -4 and cloudy for Montreal, sun's out, and -11 for Chibougamau. -8 in Sault Ste. Marie, 6 below for Ottawa. Sunny and -5 for Thunder Bay, -8 for Sioux Lookout. -21 in Churchill, 2 below for the Paw. Cloudy and -5 for Winnipeg, -2 for Brandon and Dauphin. +1 for Estevan, Regina, Saskatoon, and North Battleford. 2 above in Meadow Lake, 0 for La Ronge. In northern Alberta, +1 for High Level, Peace River, and Fort Chipewyan. 2 above for Edmonton, sun's out, and 14 for Lethbridge. 17 above with the sun out for Vancouver, +12 for Victoria. 7 in Prince George, 10 in Smithers. -29 in Old Crow, +1 with flurries for Whitehorse. 13 below for Yellowknife, -19 for Norman Wells. -34 for Sax Harbor, 28 below for Pawlatuck. -25 for Chesterfield and Whale Cove. -32 for Resolute, 35 below in Igloolik. The Grand Chief of Manitoba, Kuwait-Nawi, Ogimaganok, says leadership from Pimachikamak Cree Nation and MKO have met with Manitoba Hydro officials and cabinet ministers. Garrison Settee had demanded an urgent meeting after the utility put out a press release floating the idea that the Cree Nation's recent devastating power outage may have been caused by someone shooting at Hydro's infrastructure. Tonight on Face to Face, Settee, a former chief of Pimachikamak, says issues with Hydro go back generations. And he says the promises made by the province 50 years ago in the Northern Flood Agreement have never materialized.
The people that were anticipating a lot of great things to come out of that are still waiting to see the manifestation of those promises that were detailed in the document. And also, like, the example that I can give you is the eradication of mass poverty and opportunities for employment. Those were very minimal, and they only lasted a short time. And as you probably know, that the unemployment rate is 85% in our First Nation, and also the poverty that we're talking about is still a challenge for many of our people.
And you can catch our entire interview with Grand Chief Garrison Settee in less than 2 minutes from now. We're all out of time for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. You can find more over on our website, including questions family members are raising over the death and investigation of a 16-year-old girl in Smithers, BC. And Creason will be here with your first look at the day's news tomorrow, live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy Miigwech. Thanks for being with us. Stick around. Face to Face is up next. Have a great night.